In November and December of 2009, Nicholas Gunn, along with 350 other actors, performed at the Short and Sweet Short Play Festival at Chapel Off Chapel in Paran. 51 new plays were presented over a 3-week season. Nicholas performed in 2 plays, both of which were selected for the final night gala, and one of these plays won Nicholas the award for Best Actor and an exciting prize.
The prize is a 5-month tour next year from April to August. It's called the Shorter and Sweeter Tour, and that'll be touring sort of all around the Australian mainland, basically.
So it's a big milestone.
Yeah. I was rapt. I sort of wasn't totally aware of the prize.
So you didn't go into it to win the prize?
Well, I went in to give the best performance that I could give, but given that it was a monologue of sort of a dark nature, I didn't think that it would get to the point of actually winning.
So you didn't go in to win it. Why did you go into it?
Carl J. Sorheim, who's a friend of mine from Norway, he just writes things very well. He writes pieces very well. And this piece had a very good twist in it. And I wanted to do it because he was directing it and he wrote it.
So when you're looking at a piece, what are the ingredients that tell you that it's a good piece?
Well, there was a clear journey that the character goes through. In this case, it was stalking the lady, because it was a scene about a guy that looks, at least to the audience, looks like he's going to rape her. And then you find out in the end that she's letting him fulfill a sexual fantasy, which is this whole thing of, raping her. And so that was the sort of twist. It had a clear journey through sort of, moments of comedy and lightness to moments of being quite dark and almost, psychotic. Then vulnerable at the end when she decides that she can't actually go through with it. So that's where it sort of travels.
And how did you prepare yourself for that journey?
Well, Carl knew exactly what he wanted, and he directed me very vigilantly through the piece. I had to kind of, what do I have to do? I had to I guess, psych myself into it, and I had to adjust the stakes of the scene. How important is this to my character to get this fantasy fulfilled? And that's what I remember Carl telling me at the start. Again, it's another process I use from the rehearsal room, which is adjusting the stakes, your hopes and expectations, making sure they're in place, and knowing where you're coming from just before you begin the scene. So my thing was, I had been sitting in this cafe looking at her for hours, and I really had to get into that frame of mind that this is pretty exciting right now, that I've been sitting here and now this is just about to happen. She's just about to leave and I'm going to have to follow her home, and now I'm going to get to do what I've wanted to do for months. And we've been planning this for months because I've had to work up the courage to ask her to do this, and then she said yes. So it's sort of, those stakes are very high.
Right, so setting those at the start was a really important key for the journey.
If I didn't, it wouldn't be as strong. If I forgot to, I remember one night I didn't adjust them properly. I just didn't have them in mind. I just kind of went on stage and started, and sort of halfway through, the piece, I realised, oh no, this isn't translating as desperate as he wants this. And then I sort of kicked in and found the place again. And Carl pointed it out straight away. We got off stage, and Carl was like, "You didn't have your stakes in place, did you?" And I said, "No, thank you for reminding me." But yeah, so he picked up on it.
So you find with a tool like that, you obviously get a very clear difference in the outcome if you're using it or if you're not.
Choices and actions become clear, and you give reason for doing any action that you're trying to
implement, pursue.
Implement and pursue. Thank you. Yeah.
So were there any other rehearsal room tools that you found valuable in terms of preparing for this piece?
Identifying the story of the scene, and again that comes from asking the questions: what am I trying to achieve? And why am I talking under these circumstances? And from that, I always find, and I use this through the feature film on Rob Shooter's film, The Dream Children, which I did a couple of months ago, breaking down the scene using the story process and, you know, working out whether or not it's a battle for control, a test, or a challenge. And yeah, so I find it a very valuable tool. I use it often.
So identifying the story you actually find is a major tool for you?
Major tool. It clears up and gives a purpose for me through the scene. Simplifies it.
Does it provide you with a flexibility of listening and choice as you go?
Yeah. Yeah, things become active rather than doing a whole heap of business. You know, for example, maybe walking over to the table and picking something up because you don't know what else to do, and you sort of think you've got to be interesting. This is at least what goes on in my head sometimes, if I haven't got the process in place. And I do a lot of business, which is sort of things that aren't very useful and you know, dedicated towards the story.
There's just sort of space fillers and all that.
Yes, exactly, space fillers. So that, you know, having the story in place means that any action that I do, whether it be walking to a table or picking something up, there'll be a reason. There'll be usually a reason for it, and it hopefully will translate.
Well, it was obviously very successful. You've had a fantastic response.
Yeah. Well, with the monologue, yeah, it was. It was. Like I keep saying, I was rapt that it got the response it did, and that Carl's writing, you know, was brought to justice, because he's known for his comedic writing, and so having a dark piece, and he also had a comedy in the final, he got to show off both, and I was happy the dark piece won.
Well, it is a big achievement.
Yeah, definitely.
Congratulations, and enjoy your 5 months touring.
Yeah, thank you. I will.
The process of identifying the story that Nick was referring to in the interview is a rehearsal room way of working out what a conversation is really about. In doing this, it's very useful to know who started the conversation and to look behind the dialogue, behind the words that have been said, to work out what the real conversation goal is for your character. There's a lot more information about this on the Rehearsal Room website.